Today I have a little ring pillow that I made for my niece for her wedding, and I'm going to show you how to add this beautiful lace into the pillow right here. And then I have this fun dress that I've added lace, and you can see through it here to add a bunch of whimsy and beautifulness. I feel like I need to don my flower power, like flowers on my head or something with this kind of 70s retro. But anyways, it's so beautiful. Let's hop into first overhead, talking about the different laces that you want to use. I have a couple of different ones here. Now this is all from my stash of people donating it to me. You probably have the same, a couple of boxes of different laces, but notice how they have straight edges along all the sides. I mean, some of them have some scallop on there, but for the most part, they have straight sides. There's no gathering. You want to make sure that the lace you choose doesn't have one side gathered and so it's wrinkly, because that makes it a little difficult to add to your project. So anyways, today we are going to be working with this lace right here. It was super fun to work with, and I'm going to show you this little pillow right here. Now I made the pillow with some satin scraps in my collection, and then this little square on top is actually like a little applique where I added the lace to this top fabric first, and then I added it to right over the top of the pillow. You can see I've got stitching down the side here. Okay, the reason why I did that is because the satin is shiny and this is matte, and you can see the shiny through the lace right here. Now this lace that I used has a straight edge along the inside, and then the scallop is out on the edge, and that gives it a nice symmetry that way. Okay, how I did this, I'm going to set that aside right there. How I did this is I decided the size of my little square that I wanted in the middle of the pillow right here, and then I took my lace and I pinned it down right over the top of where I wanted to place it. So I've got pins here. I already stitched this side down right here, and then all I need to do is run over to the machine and stitch down this other side right here. Now, one thing that you want to keep in mind with lace is so much fun to work with because it hides a lot of mistakes. You can layer it over the top of itself as long as it's kind of the same lace. You can just kind of layer the lace over the lace, and you can stitch all over it. So what I love to keep in mind when I am adding lace to a project is to use a very narrow zigzag stitch. So you'll want to go over to your machine, press usually it's number 5 on your machine, just the regular zigzag stitch. You want to narrow how wide it is and lengthen those stitches just a little bit. And that's what I have my machine set up as right now, a very narrow, long zigzag stitch. So let's jump over to the machine and we will stitch this guy in there. And I've chosen one of the outer edges, one of the little details, and I'm just going to follow along a little line that's right inside the lace already. And you just follow it along. You can see it's going right over the top of my lace here. The zigzag stitch disappears into the lace while a straight stitch will show up. Okay, I'm going to have that cut right there. All right. Then we're going to head back over to the overhead camera. I'm going to set that next sample aside, and I'm going to flip over my cutting mat to my ironing mat. Okay, here we go. I've just stitched down both sides, and I used the light blue so you can't really see that, but with the little zigzag it doesn't show up as much. I did sew this with kind of like a yellow color, and you can see the straight line going straight through it. It doesn't look as great as a simple zigzag stitch. It will just disappear right into the lace when you use that simple zigzag. Okay, I'm going to take my iron and kind of go over my lace and flatten it out a little bit. Beautiful. Now it was so fascinating and so fun to see how simple this is. You can add this kind of lace to an already existing pre-made garment. And I'm going to show you, if let's say you have a seam up here, you want to add this to the front of a shirt or something, but you've already got seams in there. I'm going to show you how to add this lace in with a pre-made garment, or this way, where you're going to add it into another project. So this is the back side of my project. The lace is on the front. I'm going to get some really nice sharp scissors. I'm using some Kai scissors right here. I love the ones with the what's it called, with the edging, what is that edging called? Serrated. Yes, serrated edges. I love that. So as you're trimming here, you want to make sure that you don't cut the lace underneath. So that's why you want to just use just the very tips of your scissors as you're going down. I'm going to cut all the way through that middle part. And as I get to the end here, I have taken my chalk, and we are pretending that this is an actual pre-made garment where this is an actual seam. And you don't want to cut through your seam, right? I'm going to take my chalk and I'm going to make a little triangle that goes right out into the center there. I'm not sure if you can see that overhead. Oh, a little bit. Yeah, so you're going to cut out just a little bit like that. And then I'm going to trim. Be careful not to cut my lace underneath. And make my little triangle there, straight up to where it's stitched, and we're going to pretend that's stitched right there. So what we're going to do is we're going to fold it once like this, give it a little press right like that. Did you turn yourself off? Hopefully he didn't turn himself off. Okay, we're going to roll it there, and we're going to roll it one more time. I promise I turned the iron on. He's so good. He turns himself off if I don't touch him for a while. That helps with the ADHD brain, right? Love it. Okay, so I've turned it, and I'm turning it again. I'm giving it a little stitch and a little iron with that rolled edge right there. Very nice. Okay, and then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. I'm going to fold it kind of into that where that stitch line is underneath, right like so. What's really cool about this lace is that I've been seeing it popping up everywhere, in linens, in garments, in project bags, all kinds of things. And this is so easy to add to anything. Okay, we're going to give this another little iron now that we roll it one more time, like so. And if you are, and it doesn't need to look beautiful because it's just underneath there. Underneath, this is the back inside of our project, right? And you're going to repeat the same thing if this was our garment seam and you were adding this into a pre-existing garment to give it just a little more whimsy, make it beautiful. Okay, right like that. Oh, that's the back side of our project, and then we flip it over to the front, and look at how beautiful that is. We can take our iron and give it one more little press right here, and then we're going to take it over to the machine, our sewing machine, and we're just going to zip right down, and we're going to sew right over the top of our lace right there with that simple zigzag stitch. That zigzag stitch is just going to disappear right into our lace. Oh, we're going backwards. Let's go forward now. All right. I'm gonna speed that up just a little bit. There it goes. Look at how simple and beautiful this is. I love the IDT foot. Now, just as a reminder, what I love about the FOF machine is when I press the pedal one more time, it lowers the needle right down into my fabric, lifts my foot up just a fraction, enough so I can pivot really beautifully. And I'm gonna grab my stiletto and make sure that little end is tucked under there. Now this is the side. If this was a garment, this would be my sewn seam. And so I'm just finishing that edge right there. And we're just going to zip down this side as well. Right, like so. Beautiful. Oh, look at that. We're going to trim off some of these furry things right there. And then you give it one more press. Woo. Right like so. And that is how I made the little lace inserts to go right over this, so the satin would show underneath and give it a really beautiful heirloom look to this little ring bearer pillow right there. And if you look underneath here, we stitched in that little edge. So if that was that sewn seam, you can add this to anything, any beautiful blouses, clothing items that you want to. Okay, so that's how you add the lace into a solid piece of fabric. Next, we are going to talk about how to add in the lace into multiple layers of your dress. I took just the sleeve pattern from here, from this dress right here. You can see how it's a solid piece. And I'm going to show you how I added in the layers of fabric to that and incorporated lace into that. Okay, I've got my pattern piece right here, and this is that sleeve pattern. Okay. So you can see on my garment here, my sleeve didn't go all the way to the top of my shoulder. Right here, it started down here. So I was able to cut off that whole top curved shoulder and just bring the sleeve to right here. So that's what I did. My pattern actually came pre-folded like that. So I just went with the fold that was already there. And I took off that shoulder sleeve part right there. So I could just add it into the other pattern. Okay, we're doing a little bit of teaching you how to mash patterns together today too, I guess. All right, so this is the bottom of the sleeve down by where the cuff is, that goes down here. This part right here is that top of the sleeve that I told you I took out that part. Okay, you can see that there is a pre-existing line right like this, and I actually just used that line because I really liked that where it was. What we're going to do is I I actually, before I didn't actually cut this one, I traced out the size that I wanted of my sleeve out of Swedish tracing paper first, and then I cut that one. I didn't cut my original pattern so I could keep all the sizing in it and that. So I drew some lines across here, and I went straight across. We're not going to deal with the curve of the bottom part of your pattern because our lace is straight, right? Okay, so you want to, I drew a line here and I drew a line here, and then I cut out those pieces and I added a 1/2 inch to the pattern piece that I cut. So I have a little sample here I'm going to show you. So you can see that you can see that there's the different pieces of fabric on below and above. And where I cut the original pattern piece, I added a 1/2 inch. Like if this was the bottom piece, I added a 1/2 there. If this was another piece, I added a 1/2 on that side and the top part. So anywhere I cut, I added a 1/2 inch. So when I sewed them together, you can see there's my 1/2 inch, and I put those together, and then that way the pattern stayed its original size. Okay, so where I put those 1/2 inch together, I put the lace right over the middle of the seam that went right through. And this lace that I used has a crisscross right through the middle of it. So it was easy peasy to just set that right down the middle right there. And then you'll want to stitch both sides on, one side and then the other. Use that beautiful zigzag stitch. I'm going to move this out of the way right there. So once you sew on both sides, I've got both sides stitched on. I took my handy dandy seam ripper and then I ripped out the pre-existing stitch that I did. And what's cool is I already ironed those edges down, the seam allowances from making the seam. So all I had to do is open up those seams now and give it a press. Like so, and then open the other side and give it a press like so. Oh, look at how beautiful that is. So you can add the variety to any of your outfits that you are making. You can make them so beautiful, so whimsy. And then what you want to do is do that zigzag stitch right over the top of both of those edges too. And then you just proceed to sew all of your pattern pieces together. And this, we'll go over to here, turns into your sleeve. Look at how beautiful that is. So you want to prep your fabric first and then sew all of the rest of your pattern pieces together. So you can cut out and fold back those pieces and make it like a little window here. Or down on the bottom of the skirt, I just left those closed because that would be a little too short for it to be see-through down below. So I added that detail on, but I left that closed, and then I opened up the sleeve part here. So anyways, that is how you can add some really fun heirloom lace and modernize it to make fun things for your upcoming projects. Let me know if you have any questions about that. I hope that you go home and experiment with all of those leftover laces, boxes of lace that you also have acquired too. Have a great day, and we will see you next How Do I?